All right, guys, welcome back to the Green Zone, episode 23, a number of greatness. Shout out Michael Jordan, but we're not here to talk about basketball. We are here to talk about football, of course. It is the season. So, guys, let's get started. As always, if you're not familiar with the program, we are going to run through the NFL matchups head-to-head, where I'm going to tell you the straight winners in each and every matchup. We will then follow that up with fantasy advice. It's going to be daily fantasy mostly, but you can use a lot of this advice for your regular fantasy seasons. And then finally, we're going to get in that green zone. I'm going to give you your betting advice. So, you can fast forward to each category that you wish, each one you prefer, but I recommend listening to the whole thing because I'm about to drop some knowledge on all y'all. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. First up, let's go through the head-to-head pick'ems. Let's, as we like to say here on the Green Zone, kick it off. All right. Here it is, boys and girls, week 3, the final week that I really like to get my hands and dissect each and every one of these, my hands on and dissect each and every one of these teams. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, we don't know who they are, but after this one, we surely will, or we should. First up, we got the Dolphins at the Cowboys. Should I go over this? I don't think I need to. There are a couple huge favorites in the NFL this week. That is, one of them is this game. The other is the Pats versus the Jets and their third-string quarterback. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Cowboys win this one, guys. I will say that I am a little nervous that at some point the Dolphins may actually win a game. It is totally feasible for them to go 0-16. But they may get somebody one day and screw up somebody's Survivor Football League. That's not this week, guys. Not in Dallas versus those hungry Cowboys. The Cowboys tasted a little tiny taste of the playoffs, and they want more. They got a great play caller there who may even take over the head coaching job after this year. Coaching controversy? I don't know. Jason Garrett, Jerry Jones has stood by you this whole time, but now that he's got an offensive coordinator, young man calling things and calling them well, maybe have your eyes over your back, over your shoulder, baby. Next, we got the Bengals at the Bills, guys. I like the Bills in this one. The Bengals, they, at the beginning of the season, I said, hey, before the season started, I said, this is probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, other than the Miami Dolphins, who are in tank mode. They showed us something, right? Week 1, they came out, they played the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle with the 12th man going off, and guess what? They held their own. They almost won that game. Came back, laid an egg in week 2 against the 49ers. The Niners took it to them. Yeah, they did. They just grabbed them by the haunches, and we'll leave that out for the rated R version of this, but basically, guys, they really took it to them. Now, next up, they've got the Bills, and guess what? Bills are 2-0. There are 6 teams in the NFL right now that are 2-0, or 6 teams that... I think it's 4 teams, I'm sorry, excuse me, holy Moses, throwing some numbers at you. 4 teams this year that are 2-0 in the playoffs that did not make the playoffs last year, and the Buffalo Bills are one of them, baby. 60% of teams that go 2-0 make the playoffs. We'll have to see. I like the Bills. I like Josh Allen. I've been saying that on the Green Zone for quite a while, guys. The kid's athletic. He can run. He's going to get you almost 100 yards rushing or over 100 yards rushing every single game. On top of that, he's got a cannon. He's found a connection downfield with John Brown. I like it, guys. I like the Bills over the Bengals in this one. Season continues to spiral in Cincinnati. Next, we got the Lions at the Eagles. Guys, a lot of games that I think can go either way. Teams that are kind of middling there or haven't really found their identity yet, but I'm sticking with the home team. In a case where I've got 2 teams that I think either team can win, I'm going to go with the home team. So, let's go over the Eagles and the Lions, guys. I actually think the Lions are going to give the Eagles a run for their money here. The Eagles are missing both Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. Alshon may be a game-time decision. He may be back in it. This is Saturday that I'm recording this, guys, so I apologize if some of these things aren't updated. However, Deshaun Jackson's already out, and if you got a hobbled Alshon Jeffrey, you're going to have to lean on Zach Ertz a lot, who I like in fantasy, but that may be tough. I'm still going to go with the Eagles because they're at home, and it is the Lions, but expect this one to be closer than you think, guys, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions actually pulled it off. They're looking decent this year. Next, we've got up the Jets at the Patriots. Guys, this is that other game that has a ridiculous spread. The Jets have their third-string quarterback. It's a division game. The Patriots usually beat up on the Jets. The Patriots don't play the Jets the same way they play the Dolphins, right? Like sometimes the Jets give sometimes the Dolphins give the Patriots a run for their money. Not the case with the Jets. The Jets usually get spanked by the Patriots, and expect that to continue with their third-string quarterback out there. Belichick will not give you any sort of mercy. This guy will run fake punts when he's up by 22 if he has to. So, give me the Pats easy in that one. Not to mention they're at home, guys. Falcons at Colts, guys. This is actually Colts' opening game. Much like the Niners are 2-0 and they started on the road, their third game is their first game at home. Same thing here for the Colts, guys. So Colts have hung in there in 2 good games. They're playing a lot better than I thought they were going to. I mean, Andrew Luck quitting at the timing that he did kind of looked like it was going to leave that franchise in a mess. I never liked Jacoby Brissett. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, but hey, man's proving me wrong. He's playing well and moving that offense however he wants. So give me the Colts at home versus the Falcons. I know the Falcons won last week against a good Eagles team, but I'm not seeing what I thought I would see out of the Falcons quite yet. So give me the Colts in this one. Next up, guys, we got the Vikings at the Raiders. I expect the Vikings to take it to the Raiders, guys. I don't think the Raiders are that good. I think they've had a couple of games where their defense has played better than they really are. I expect the Vikings at home. After last week's loss, an embarrassing loss to the Packers, I expect the Vikings to really come out and take it to the Raiders. I think Dalvin Cook is going to run all over the Las Vegas Raiders, and I just don't see it, guys. Give me the Vikings easy. Chiefs at Ravens, guys. I've gone back and forth on this game all week. The one thing I've stayed sure of is that the Chiefs win this game. I'm just not sure by how much, or whether it's a high-scoring game like Vegas expects it to be, right? The spread or the over-under is the highest over of the week. Vegas tends to trick us, right? We got high over games. They turn out to be, defensive struggles. We got low defensive struggle games that we expect that turn out to be offensive explosions. I think this one may live up to the point hype. I just don't know if the Ravens are ready to hang in there with the Chiefs. Now, I do have a brother-in-law. Shout out Corey. He is a Ravens expert. He is a huge fan. He watches them all the time. He has told me insider information that the Ravens tend to come back and beat teams that they lost to in the last matchup. So that bodes well for the Ravens, who lost against the Chiefs last year. If you remember that no-look pass from your man, Pat Mahomes, the Stephen Curry of the NFL. I hate that analogy. It's already played out. But he no-look passes it to the corner of the end zone. They win that game. I just don't. The more I think about it, guys, the more I think Lamar Jackson may have a tough one in this game. I just think the Chiefs, they're not very good, but sometimes they can get pressure on the quarterback. Every time I've seen Lamar Jackson highlight, he's sitting back there with a ton of time throwing deep to Hollywood Brown or somebody over the top. He's got a good arm. Mark Andrews down the seam, but he's having time. So if the Ravens offensive line can continue to give him time, I think that he does well, and the Ravens almost pull it off. But if they don't give him time and the Chiefs are in his lap all day, there's a lot of pressure on and a lot of expectation on this game with 2-2-0 teams. I like the Chiefs, and I think there's a potential for a blowout here, guys. All right, next we've got the Packers at the Broncos. This is one where we've got 2 teams that are relatively unknown and underrated defenses that are starting to get recognized. Of course, we all know the defensive ends, Von Miller and Bradley Chubb in Denver, but that Denver defense has layers of good players. At the same time, the Green Bay Packers, I know they let up 400 yards or something like that last week. I think that Green Bay defense is good, and they are what have kept the Packers 2-0 at this point in the season, as that offense has not started to click yet. Not a big LaFleur fan from what he has shown me so far. The guy continues to mix up 50-50 Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. To me, with my eyes, when I watch the NFL and I watch Green Bay Packers, Aaron Jones is the more explosive and better back on that team. Why he's not getting the majority of the totes, I'm not sure. Last week he has 150 all-purpose yards. Very next press conference, LaFleur is saying, hey, look, we're going to run him less. We're going to try to save him, package him. Can't really do that in the NFL. That's not the way that it works. So you got to play your best players. You're not almost in the playoffs. You're 2-0. So I don't know if this guy necessarily knows how to pull the trigger on the better running back. He has issues with that in his past as well. So give me the Packers in this one, what I think is going to be a low-scoring affair. Next, we got the Cardinals at the Panthers, guys. I'm actually going to pick the Cardinals in this one. Now, I know it's hard to believe that the Cardinals are going to go on the road in Carolina and win. I think Christian McCaffrey's going to have a hell of a game, but I know nothing about this backup quarterback, guys. And I just don't think that he's quite ready. I sat up last night late watching a little bit of highlights from this guy. I don't know. It's hard for me to take an unproven backup versus a young, unproven rookie. Neither team looks to have that great of a quarterback. I like to lean in favor of the team with a better quarterback and coach, as you've heard me say here before on the Green Zone. But in this one, guys, I just think that the coaching and the defense is better on Arizona's side. Riverboat Ron making some questionable calls late here. I'm not real sure Cam Newton kind of makes this team go. So give me the Cardinals. Give me the Cardinals defense really taking it to Carolina there. And expect David Johnson to have a decent game as well. That little drink break was brought to you by Diet Coke. Diet Coke, the friends you like to have. Next up, guys, we have the Giants at the Buccaneers, okay? I'm going to go with the Buccaneers in this one. I would not be ashamed or mad at you if you pick the Giants. Look, I don't know Daniel Jones or anything about him, guys. Last week, we had a handful of quarterbacks go down, some weird field goal kick misses. We'll get into that when we go over last week's picks and misses later, but a lot of weird stuff that's resulting in brand new quarterbacks starting it off this week. So, the one thing I can say about this Daniel Jones is that he was picked in the first round, pick 6. To me, anytime you're a quarterback and pick 6 is anywhere near your name, it doesn't sound good, guys. I know that sounds like a bunch of hokey pokey or hocus pocus, but I don't know anything about this guy. What I do know is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is a little better than people were thinking coming into the season. Last year, they were atrocious. They were terrible. This year, they've actually done pretty well. They won the game against the Carolina Panthers. That was mostly their defense. Jameis Winston playing the role of game manager. And in week 1, if you just look at this final score, you're going to think, oh, the Niners put up a lot of points, 31 or something like that. 14 of those points were scored by the San Francisco 49er defense. So that Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense has come to play. They're out to prove something. Jameis Winston, are we going to get the guy that throws 5 picks, shooting down the field every other throw? Or are we going to get the guy that plays game manager and gets you the W at the end of the day? I'm not real sure. I don't really know, guys. I just ate the W here for those of you listening on the podcast. But I'm going to take Tampa at home. It's one of those things where I'm going to take the home team, guys. Okay, moving along quickly here. We got the Saints and the Seahawks. Again, we got another one where we don't even know the quarterback situation. Sean Payton hasn't told us whether it's going to be Taysom Hill or dude that we all know that's not that good. Guys, look, I think they need to play a little bit more Taysom Hill. If he's anything like Steve Young, which I think that was a terrible statement by Sean Payton, then the guy's got to see the field, right? He's not, and that's because he's not Steve Young. So, but I do think the guy's athletic. I expect Sean Payton to be very creative in this one. I expect him to have multiple plays created just to get the ball in Alvin Kamara's hands. I do think in fantasy, Kamara takes a hit with Drew Brees coming out. Part of the reason why Kamara is so successful in fantasy and a successful running back is because he has a Hall of Fame quarterback sitting back there comfortably in the pocket. When he sits back there comfortably in the pocket, he's able to go through his progressions. First read, not there. Second read, not there. Third read, right here. Always his safety blanket. Alvin Kamara right over the middle. Well, that's a good quarterback that can safely and confidently sit in that pocket and dish it over the top to him. Kamara has great hands, great balance, great running abilities, everything that goes with that. He takes advantage of it afterwards. But it's Brees that's able to sit there and find him week after week, play after play. He's no longer there. So I think it's just going to be tough to get him the ball, but I expect if Sean Payton is this offensive genius, he's got to find a way to get it in Thomas's hands, Kamara's hands. I think he does that, not as effective as he would have with Drew Brees, but I think he does it enough to give the Seahawks a run for their money. I'm still going, after all of that, I'm still going Seahawks at home against the Saints. The Seahawks airing it out in this one, believe it or not. The Saints' rush defense is pretty darn good, so they're not going to be able to rush it 60%, 80% like they like to. They're going to have to air it out. That's where the Saints' defense is vulnerable, and I like DK Metcalf. I like Russell Wilson. I've always said that. They got Tyler Lockett. They got some weapons there that they could throw the ball to. They're not as anemic at the passing situation as Pete Carroll would have you think. Give me the Seahawks at home in this one. Wouldn't be shocked if the Saints somehow pull something off there. All right, guys, Texans at Chargers. Wow, I am talking a lot, and that requires refreshment, boys and girls. All right, we've got the Texans at the Chargers, guys. I think this one has a potential to be an offensive, explosive game. I think the Chargers do what they will with the Texans, but I think ultimately the Texans come out with the W. And I like Deshaun Watson. If that line can give him any sort of time, I know it's going to be tough against the rush attack of the Chargers there, but if they give him time, I expect a big game from DeAndre Hopkins. I expect a big game from Will Fuller. That Chargers secondary is questionable on the edges. Of course, they have Derwin Jackson back there floating around. He's a great young safety, but I do think that the Texans can take advantage of that. Look, Deshaun Watson's a great player, so He's going to make his plays even if he doesn't have time. As long as that Texans line can keep him uninjured and healthy, I think the Texans win this one. Next, we got the 49ers, the Steelers, guys, my beloved 49ers. Wow, they have really pissed in my eye 2 weeks in a row now, telling me, hey, you want to talk all this trash? We're going to give you 2-0 on the road, and then we're going to come back to open the season 2-0 and get that home field excited. I will personally be at this game, guys. I love my Niners. Very happy with the season start. A lot of times when I talk about the Niners, guys, I talk about them tongue-in-cheek. I'm the hardest critic on the San Francisco 49ers. That's because I live, breathe, eat, and sleep SF. That's my team. So I'm always going to be their toughest critic. That's coming from a place of love, baby. Last 2 weeks, the San Francisco 49ers have shown their defense is serious. Their defense is legit. Now, they still have Jason Verrett floating in the wings. Ahkello Witherspoon has picked it up big time. I don't know if it's fool's gold or if it's real, but so far the man's picked it up, and I have to give him props. He is helping out Richard Sherman on his end. Both are locking down their positions, and that's as a result of constant pressure coming from that defensive line. It's exactly how Robert Saleh, John Lynch, Shanahan all drew it up when they took all those defensive linemen. Everything's finally coming to fruition. It looks great. Last week, watching them totally dismantle Cincinnati in Cincinnati is what Niner fans have been waiting for years, guys. We've been waiting for that offensive explosion from who we were told was an offensive genius. We've been waiting for our defense to play the way we expect San Francisco to play, and they did. Everything was clicking on all cylinders, massive chunk plays coming left and right. If you guys aren't aware of Baldy's breakdowns, Baldinger, on Twitter, check it out. He breaks down every chunk play the Niners had against the Cincinnati Bengals. The offensive scheme that Kyle Shanahan comes up with is genius, and that is because he gives you literally the same look over and over and over, and sometimes he runs out of that look. Sometimes he passes out of that look. Sometimes he passes, rolls out, and then fake handoff, roll out, and passes out of it. Sometimes he fakes the handoff, rolls out, and pitches out of it. The defense is looking at the same thing with a different result every single time. That's why it's hard, and you often see wide receivers running wide open down the field. I think Jimmy G is starting to build chemistry with these young wide receivers and his old ones. Kittle is going to be very involved this next week. I don't care about the addition of Minka Fitzpatrick. Steelers, on the other hand, they're going the opposite direction, right? They've got no more AB, top 5 player in the offensive player in the NFL. What he did, we're not going to get into that. We don't go over personal stuff here. This is a football podcast. Next, we've got Lev Bell, top 5 offensive player in the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger, a lot of people say a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm not real sure, but that's what they say. He's won a couple of Super Bowls. Bottom line, guys, they are missing. They don't have or are missing each one of those guys. If you follow the NFL at all, you know that. So they're down to Mason Foster. I think the guy is better than people think. I think he poses a threat to the Niners. I think this one may be closer than what's expected, but I got to go with my 49ers. I can't keep picking against them. Niners win opening day at home. That crowd's going to be rocking. I know the Steeler fans travel well. Well, guess what? You're now in San Francisco territory, baby. Niner fans travel well as long as they've been given a good product to travel to. Everybody wants to hate on Niner fans like that Levi Stadium. It doesn't have a home field advantage. There's been nothing to cheer about. The tickets are outrageous. One of the highest PSLs and ticket pricing in the NFL, yet it's been a losing product year after year after year. So yeah, in order to keep your tickets and keep going to stay with your team, sometimes you got to sell a few. So expect that crowd to be loud and them to be in full throat this Sunday. I'll be there. I'll be leading us on, guys. Niners in the W. Get the W this one. Next, we got Rams at Browns, guys. I think the Rams take this one. I think they take it pretty easy. I don't think the Browns can hang in there with the Rams. I think the Rams are a pretty damn good team this year. I don't know that they necessarily took a step back this year like they should have with a Super Bowl hangover. I think they may have taken a step forward. If they took a step back, it wasn't very far. We're talking baby steps. So Rams beat the Browns in Cleveland this week. And then finally, guys, Bears at Redskins. I've gone back and forth on this game over and over. I think the Redskins can actually win this game. I know the Bears are favored, but I'll go with the Bears, even though they are on the road. And like I said, I was trying to pick the home team in these closer matchups, but I'll go with the Bears just because Case Keenum is not a very good quarterback against good defenses, and that Bears defense is good. They have everybody. They have somebody on each level, right? They got Khalil Mack at the line, or they've got Akeem Hicks or Andre Hicks at the defensive lineman position. They've got Khalil Mack at the linebacker position, and they've got Eddie Jackson and a couple other guys at the secondary position. every time you have a good defense, guys, notice that they have like a Pro Bowler or a Hall of Famer at every layer of position. Line, linebackers, secondary, right? That's how the Niners were when they made their run, right? They had Justin Smith, Aldon Smith, and they had Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, and then they had guys like Deshaun Goldson who were playing out of their mind that year. So everybody at each layer. The Bears do have that. The Redskins have an underrated defense too, and they will play hard, and they will be at home. But Case Keenum, I think, ultimately folds in this one, and the Bears get the W on the road. All right, guys, that is it for our head-to-head pick'em. I know that lasted a little bit longer than expected and usually does, but that's okay, guys, because at the Green Zone, you never know what is going to happen. Shit just happens, all right? First up, guys, this is daily fantasy advice. Also, it does apply, of course, to your regular fantasy, but I am going to try to give you winners in each one, even though last week, as far as picking head-to-head and betting advice, was the worst week in the history of the Green Zone. We nailed it in fantasy. So each and every week so far this year, we have absolutely nailed it in fantasy. I've given you guys at least 7 to 8 top 10 players, and I give you 9 players for each category: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. So let's see if we can keep this streak rolling. First up, guys, at quarterback, I got Lamar Jackson. If you go into daily fantasy, he is a higher up there guy. So you can go with Pat Mahomes, but he is just one more tier up in price. I like Lamar Jackson for the little bit lesser of the price. Give me the discount, the somewhat discount. Look, like I said before, Vegas expects this to be the highest over of the week, a high-scoring affair. I don't know if that happens, and I do think there is a slight potential for the Chiefs to get blown out here and Lamar Jackson have a rude awakening to the NFL. However, you can't knock what you've seen so far. The guy has obviously worked hard. He's played well. I'm looking forward to this opportunity for him this coming week. Give me Lamar Jackson, a quarterback. Next, guys, we got Josh Allen, another one of those quarterbacks that could take advantage of his legs. I like his athleticism. I also like him to throw the ball downfield and make a few big plays this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals' defensive line is absolutely atrocious. We saw it against the San Francisco 49ers. I saw an entire game of Jimmy G sitting back there and picking and choosing whatever he wanted to. Josh Allen, given the time, is going to be able to make chunk plays downfield to John Brown. On top of that, he's got a good little running back in Devin Singletary. He's a young man you're going to hear a lot more about as the season goes on. And Josh can scramble. I like Josh Allen in this one, and he's also cheap, guys. And then finally, we got Dak Prescott. This is going to be week to week, guys. We are going to be able to pick whoever's going, whatever quarterback, wide receiver, running back, or mostly quarterback and running back that are going against the Miami Dolphins. That's what's happening this week. They just traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're not going to go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys. Give me Dak Prescott. And he's cheaper than Lamar Jackson, not as cheap as Josh Allen. So you can still get him for a good price. Quarterbacks, guys. First up, running back, Dalvin Cook. I expect the Vikings to come out with a vengeance this week. I expect them to be embarrassed about what happened last week. And I think the Raiders are the perfect matchup at home for them. So give me Dalvin Cook going off and going crazy against the Las Vegas Raiders. And Matt Breida is the next pick, guys, for the San Francisco 49ers. If you haven't heard the name yet, get used to it. Breida the Cheetah is what we like to call him out here. Now, the 49ers are running a three-headed monster. Much like I talked about with fantasy expert Billy Goldstein here on the first opening podcast of the Green Zone, the Niners Shanahan does run a scheme where most running backs can thrive. And that was the key to the Shanahans, right? Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan. Well, Kyle has taken on Shanahan's mantle and just continued the same sort of offense. If you remember, Mike Shanahan, those of us a little bit older guys, they could run any quarterback they wanted to in Denver and they would have success. That is the same thing that Kyle Shanahan has employed in San Francisco. So, Breida, however, is really fast. He's a one-cut type back. See you later. I think he is the best of the bunch. The only problem he's ever had in his young career has been that he gets hurt, and he gets hurt often. He averages over 5 yards per carry, fellas. He is very productive with his touches. I think he gets about 10 to 15 touches, but I think he gets in that end zone. I think he makes the most of it. Expect, things to be stolen near the goal line by Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. I think Jeff Wilson Jr. and Mostert are like the Niners' power backs there. But I think Breida puts up enough points, and he's enough of a discount to throw into your flex there if you'd like. And then finally, guys, we got Zeke Elliott. He is the number one rated running back this week on Fantasy Pros, and I think that rings true. Going against the Miami Dolphins, he was the one that spoke up and said, look, those are still professionals across the line there. Those are professional NFL players, so we cannot take them lightly. I love to hear stuff like that. I don't think it's just lip service. That's a guy who's saying, like, we take these guys too lightly, guys, and we will be the most embarrassed team in the NFL this Sunday. So I like the mindset of Zeke. I think they're finally going to feed him often, just like he wants. That guy's going to get everything he can get because he's a monster. Next, we'll go wide receivers, guys. I got Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin has quietly been having a great year in Tampa Bay already. He's having a better year than Mike Evans. Actually was Billy Goldstein on our first podcast to mention that he's a great guy to pick up, and he is probably going to have a better season than Mike Evans. Oh, camera's falling down there. Can't have that, right? And so far, so good. So I think it continues. They got a plus matchup this week. Give me a little bit of Chris Godwin. And not finally, we got Sammy Watkins, guys. I like Sammy Watkins bouncing back. Look, last week, Demarcus Robinson, the youngster who's supposed to replace Tyreek Hill, everybody who's anybody got involved. Patrick Mahomes is spreading that ball around like he was a point guard playing basketball and just throwing it around, making a bunch of assists. Excuse me. So and he was trying, but bottom line is Sammy Watkins had 12 targets. Maybe they weren't the most productive 12. Doesn't matter. He was in my lineup. He didn't give me as much as I wanted. I still won. It's fine. This week, I think he does get that yardage. This week, I think he takes advantage of a Baltimore Ravens defense who has given up 40 yards on the ground in 2 games. That's crazy, but has gave up over 400 yards through the air to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. So I expect Sammy Watkins to be very involved this week, and I think he's a safe pick. Anybody attached to Patrick Mahomes this week, guys, you're probably safe playing in your fantasy. Next, we got Calvin Ridley, guys. This is kind of like the Chris Godwin situation, although Julio Jones is a major step up from Mike Evans. I love you, Mike Evans, but you're not quite Julio Jones level. Calvin Ridley is the number 2 on the Atlanta Falcons, and because of that, because Julio Jones demands so much attention, he's making the most of it. This young man got in the end zone, I think, 10 times last year and has already started off this year with about 3 or 4. So I like Calvin Ridley, and I like him getting in the end zone again this week. And then finally, guys, this is a late addition. I actually recently added Hollywood Brown. I do think that if Lamar Jackson and the Ravens get going and this becomes an explosive game, Hollywood Brown is going to get a couple of deep touchdowns. We all know that Chiefs defense can get touched up often, all right? They're always on the field with Pat Mahomes making like 2 or 3 play touchdown drives. So the Ravens probably will score some points. It may be garbage time points, but I'll take it. All right, guys, tight ends, we got Evan Ingram. The New York Giants are going into a matchup without most of their receivers, right? I think Sterling Shepard's battling something. They got TJ Jones, who I think is going to tough it out, but he's battling something. Evan Ingram is going to be the main target, and he's going to be the main target for a young quarterback. What do we know about young quarterbacks when they come into a game, one of their first games or whatnot, and they don't have a lot of receiver options or a true number 1? Well, we know that they rely mostly on their emergency outlets and their safety blankets. That's going to be the tight end, and that's going to be Saquon Barkley. Expect a lot from Barkley. He's very expensive, though. I stay away from this week, but he will have a good week. And expect a lot from Evan Ingram, and as he will be one of the main targeted guys for Jones this week. Zach Ertz. Same situation, guys. The Eagles are running out of wide receiver options, but one thing that has stayed constant for them this year is Zach Ertz. They'll get him the ball. Carson Wentz knows him, loves him, and he'll get it to him often. And then finally, guys, is Mark Andrews. Now, if you take Hollywood Brown at your wide receivers or flex, don't take Mark Andrews too. This is at Fantasy Advice 101. Don't have multiple players from the same team, guys. Actually, I had somebody ask me about that the other day, and it kind of blew me away. This should be common knowledge. However, just making sure, don't have a bunch of guys from the same team, because if that team lays an egg, then you are absolutely screwed. So, Mark Andrews, he's slowly becoming a beast, and looks to have built a real good rapport there with Lamar Jackson. So, if Mark Andrews, who's been a game-time decision so far all week, if he goes, I expect him to be awesome. So, maybe hold out last minute, see if you can snag him. I'm not sure. Defenses, guys, usual suspects going against, I'm just picking teams that are going against terrible offenses, and I think that's a good thing to do in fantasy, especially in daily, because you can get away with a defense that's not known for being awesome, but they've got a great matchup. So we got Dallas obviously. We got San Francisco. I think they play well against the Steelers. And then we got the Pats. All right. It's time to get into the betting segment, guys. The third and final segment of this lovable podcast that you all have come to just love and appreciate. Last week, guys, I found out from my 13-year-old son, of all people, that I'm getting copyright issues from YouTube because I've been playing money music during the betting portion. I didn't even know that was a thing. Leave it to my savvy technological son to give me the advice of just going with instrumentals. So we're going to go with some timeless NFL music here as I give you your money-making winners. First up, guys, I have to say last week was absolutely my worst week in betting history. I don't think I've ever done as bad as I did last week. I don't have the numbers with me, but it was like 1-6, something absolutely crazy, terrible. I think I could have flipped a coin and done better, but that is why I prefaced each and every episode, or first 2 episodes this year and the first 2 last year, really the first 3. We don't know what's really happening with these teams until we get our hands on at least 3 weeks, right? We got to get our mitts on a few weeks, right? And then we can dissect these teams and really know their tendencies and who they are and what they're doing. There's so many fluke games out there in weeks 1 and 2. So many crazy things happened this last week. We had quarterbacks going down. We had field goal kickers missing some easy field goals. We had coaches making wild decisions. We had no-name... It's crazy that we had as much success in fantasy as we did because no-name players scoring all over the place. Last week, if you notice, look back at your Yahoo league. If you're in a league, look back. Notice how most teams didn't break the 100 mark, right? Bunch of 90s, 93, 95s. That's because people are playing their first-round picks, and that's not who scored last week. Will Dissly with 2 I mean, it's just out of control. I think a left tackle at one point caught a touchdown in a game. Cool story on that one, though. That guy beat cancer, and we can get into that later. Anyways, we got first look. These are the I went through and scrolled through all the bets on Bovada.com, and these are my first look bets, the ones that really stood out to me. Redskins +4 over the Bears. Yes, I said it. Take the Washington Redskins at home +4 against the Bears. Like I said earlier, guys, this is a game I went back and forth on a few different times. The Redskins have a slightly underrated defense. I think that's about the 17th time I've said that here on the podcast. Mitch Trubisky's not that great of a quarterback. Nagy's having some issues. I told you before the season starters, I think the Bears are going to take a major step back. They're not this playoff team everybody is expecting. I don't think, at least. Give me the Redskins +4, and I feel comfortable about that one. Next, I got the Rams -3.5 to beat the Browns. Like I said, guys, I think the Rams are really good. Wouldn't blow me away if they ended up back in the Super Bowl. I picked the Saints at the beginning of the year to be in the Super Bowl. Now, that's always with the caveat, no injuries. With the injury to Drew Brees, that blows my pick right out of the water now. So the Rams are looking really good, and I just think going to Cleveland's tough, yes. Playing in Cleveland across the country for you is tough, yes. But I think McVay, Todd Gurley, Malcolm Brown, who is quietly becoming a great running back within that system, I think they take care of business, guys. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, they got a lot of options there. And 3.5 isn't much for them to beat. Give me the Rams. Like I said, I think the Browns have a rough start to this season. I think they still make the playoffs, but I think it's the first time they've had a lot of expectations on them, guys. And they've started 1-1, so we'll have to see how it goes. 1-1's not necessarily a rough start. All right. Next, we have the Texans +3. Guys, look, I could easily see the Chargers winning this game. I could also easily see the Texans winning this game. So give me the Texans +3. I'll take the team plus the points. I like it. And finally, guys, I got the Giants +6 versus Tampa. I know, it's going against it. I said Tampa would win this game, but I said Tampa would mostly win the game because of their defense and the new quarterback, Daniel Jones. Look, a lot of times when a new quarterback comes into the NFL, it's a lot like the first time a pitcher gets called up from the major leagues, right? I know I've made this analogy before, but the bottom line is there's not a lot of film on this guy. So as hard as it is for him to come in the NFL as a young man and start throwing the ball around and winning a game for the Giants, it's going to be equally tough for the team that's trying to play defense against him and doesn't know his tendencies, his weaknesses, whether he throws better rolling to the right or sitting in the pocket or even going left. They don't know any of his tendencies or weaknesses, so they're going to have to figure that out on the fly. And Tampa's not that great of a team, guys. So, I like I said, their defense is better this year. But can Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Evan Ingram squeeze off a win there in Tampa? Maybe. You give me 6 points, I'll try it out. All right, guys. Finally, we're going to get down to our second take. These are the teams, or these are the games that didn't pop out at me, but once I went through again, I said, maybe. We got Minnesota -9 versus the Raiders, all right? I expect Minnesota to blow the Raiders out. Like I said before the season started, guys, I think the Minnesota Vikings are a balanced team, and I think they're good. I don't think the Raiders are that good. Give me Minnesota -9 at home. And then next I got the over at 48 in the Texans-Chargers game. I did mention earlier that I think this game has the potential to be an offensive explosive game. An explosive offensive game is what I'm meaning to say there. And I like the Texans. I like the Chargers scoring too. I think it goes back and forth. Give me the over at 48. It's not as many points as you think, guys. You got a 24-23 game, and you're still short by 1. Is that math there? But you get a feel going there. You get what I'm saying, right? This could be you could get the over easy on that one. And then, guys, these are the third glance picks. Third glance, meaning I glanced through a third time and said, why not? And that's going to be Miami plus 23 against Dallas. I'm sorry, I almost couldn't get that out without laughing. I'm just curious. Look, anytime I see a spread of 23, is this college football? This is the NFL. So that's amazing to me. Give me Miami plus 23 points. Why not? And then, guys, on that same token, give me the Pats -22. Yes, the Pats -22 points against the Jets. Again, guys, I am doing this on Saturday, so if the lines move, I apologize. But it's just funny.